So we have three panelists with us today. Our first is Gergana. She's a former managing partner at KPMG in Bulgaria. She's also the chair of the Institute in Bulgaria, so she's got a wealth of experience to share with us. Robert Bodenstein is our CEO, founder of his own management consulting firm, and also a director of the board of ICMCI, and takes the lead at the board on our certification standards, and has led us with the ISO 2700 and has been doing just a phenomenal job in that whole area. And then thirdly, Juan Negroni is managing director of his own firm, the Tally Consultancy, and he's the chair of IMC USA. So each one of them has slightly different perspectives to share with us. So just to set the scene a little bit for our speakers is that when we're dealing with our clients, many of the leaders of the clients are facing this crisis in COVID-19 issues. And if you draw a graph, I've adapted this from McKinsey and Company that have done a great job in publishing good information. We'll see that they kind of have what the normal curve of business is, and then there are a number of issues that are getting in the way of them being able to operate on business as usual. So it really is crisis management that they're in. And the point McKinsey made that really relates to me is that that's really the first of a series, they call them a tsunami of issues that are coming, because soon after that, we have to think about how we start moving back into business. And then there are the emerging from the crisis kinds of issues we need, such as how do I protect my people? How do I ensure moving forward? Following that, we're likely to have a recession. And I know at least one of our speakers is going to talk a little bit about how long that might be and what the impact is going to be on us for that. Then there are issues about returning to work. And even as we do start to ramp up our businesses, will clients come back? How do we protect our employees? How do we manage when we can't fit as many people into the space that we had before? And then finally, it's arriving at the new normal. And what is that new normal going to look like? What are consumers going to be thinking about how they act in terms of eating out or ordering online or going into retail stores or going to movies or going to sports games? All of these are unknowns. In addition to that, because all of those are COVID-19 things, I want to add a little bit of a thought for us as management consultants, because as we emerge from COVID-19 and all of these other related issues, more disruption lies ahead. And we don't know what that disruption is, but it's going to be coming to us in many different ways. Even before COVID-19, we were looking at a global slowdown of the economy. What is going to be the impact on that? Think Uber in terms of the disruption to the taxi industry. What other industries might be disrupted? So this really is a model for us as management consultants to think about how do we support our consultants in disruption as we move forward. So I think the topic is actually perfectly great for us in terms of consulting in chaos. So it is about how do we as management consultants use this current crisis to support us in our thinking and how we support our clients moving forward. So our first speaker then is Gergana Mantarkova. Gergana, thank you very much. I'm sorry to stumble on your last name. I know it very well. I don't know why I did that. You're the former, with the last name like Maholitz, I should be able to say Mantarkova. You're the former managing partner at KPMG in Bulgaria. Gergana has a number of slides that she's going to be presenting to us. So what I'm going to do is stop my share, and she's going to share her screen and present those slides to us. So I now hand it over to you, and you'll have to unmute. We've got you muted at the moment. We can't hear you, Gergana. There we go. Okay.
Okay, could you share the slides?
Oh, you'd like me to?
Yes, yes, as we have agreed originally.
Okay, very good.
Okay, but thank you very much for inviting me on this panel and for your kind introduction. I'm really delighted to be with all of you today and to discuss the challenges and opportunities in front of the consulting profession today. As we all know, COVID-19 outbreak has presented a shocking health crisis causing significant social and economic implications across the world. No one can fully quantify the depth of what has happened. Some businesses incurred an immediate and considerate loss. For others, a substantial increase in demand has occurred. The consulting industry has also been naturally affected, and there are many reports for dropping of revenues, substantial pay cut, people layoffs, pressures on consulting fees. We all know about that. So there is already a history with the pandemic crisis. And what I thought to do is to look at how consultants have behaved in the last few months. And I'm proud to say that consultants have played a vital role in addressing the challenges. I have been impressed by the speed to action by consulting firms. They're responding quickly, or many of them are responding quickly and effectively, using the resources and the creativity to make the difference. If we go to the next slide and try to look at what really worked well, so learn from each other, which might help us to see what we need to do and where we need to go going forward. So consultants, as I mentioned already on the next slide, are playing a critical role in addressing the challenges. They were and they are a very trustworthy source of information during the crisis. Dwight, could we go on the next slide, please? Okay, so the first I think story is that they really, consultants serve as a trustworthy sort of information. Many of them have shared how they have protected the well-being of employees, but also how they managed to shift products and to help customers in meeting the challenges today. What has been also, I think, impressive is the depth and the way consultants have managed to understand client needs and show empathy along the way. Whether they would make proposals or discuss cash flow and liquidity management, interpret government support, regulatory issues, people issues, industry insights, there have been a lot of information and really support provided by consultants. And what we also have witnessed in this short period of time, that there were many proposed relevant solutions, not simply selling consulting services, but trying to offer a lot of thought leadership, a lot of analytics platforms which would be provided to the public, applications pro bono, online tools. I mean, consultants in general have embraced digital and have really succeeded in really short period of time to offer a lot of support. And by doing that, also there is also building new capabilities. I was surprised to actually, when I reviewed what has happened in April, to notice that M&A activities were also quite high. For example, Accenture have acquired 3 companies just in April to build in their analytical capabilities. Consultants have proved to be also socially responsible businesses, and a lot of them have dedicated resources for pro bono work, whether it's webinars or a limited period of time, but a lot of pro bono work was also made available. And what is also interesting is that the crisis made people to be more open to cooperation. A lot of firms have joining forces with others, either with other firms or with government or with other institutions and NGOs in order to be able to help address the issues. Like even today's meeting and what Dwight and Rima have initiated with this series of webinars is a demonstration of how we could work better together and how we could grow really in these difficult times. So, of course, talking about the business environment, many of the consultants have demonstrated that they can behave ethically despite the difficulties. And when we talk about the opportunities and this reaction, this response by consulting firms, I don't mean that this is relevant to big and multinational and leading consulting firms. I think it is relevant, and I have witnessed that with our association members. I would like, if we go to the next slide, everyone, small or big, can succeed in the new normal, because I can give you a couple of examples. In one of our regular weekly webinars where we discuss, or meetings, online meetings, where we discuss issues, a consultant mentioned that they were limited by the fact that they could not exchange information. Just 2 weeks after that, the person has already shared how they have developed the tools and how they have reimagined the entire work, and then they would propose much of the fact-finding phase to be in advance of the meeting, so they have entirely redesigned their service. Another colleague has shared that he was a bit surprised from the fact that clients were looking for his expertise, which was really the beginning of his consulting career. And he was well known to provide sales and marketing training and assisting sales and marketing teams. So he went back to this core service which he has provided and he became famous for, and he entirely redesigned and prepared services and training which is entirely online. And another example is with a person who is has created a foundation for developing of emotional intelligence, and teaming up with renowned US lecturers, they will offer training and whole week of events which will be dedicated to resilience in these times. So this person has dared to think of not only focusing on the Bulgarian market, but also offering that wonderful opportunity. And we will be coming to you soon, inviting you for this event. So all these 3 examples which I just shared with you are with consultants between 1 and 3 people in their teams. They're not big firms, but they had the right mindset. They have quickly adapted. And as we used to say in KPMG, in order to be successful, you need to have not only the tool set, but you need to have the discipline and the ambition to actually use this toolkit. So everyone, small and big, can really succeed in the new normal. And Dwight, you might remember that at the beginning of when you invited me, I was a bit concerned about the word chaos and what could be opposite to chaos. And I think I found at least for me, and that's building trust, because the environment will continue to be turbulent. There will be new changes coming. It's not only the viruses, health issues, there will be many other issues, as you have also mentioned. And what we need to think is of how we would build trust, because trust is forward-looking, and we need to be ready also to entirely reimagine consulting. So what I already mentioned, but many other things. And the question is also, could we, as institutes and associations, could we do more? Should we also reimagine our role in this new environment? How we could offer more opportunities and infrastructure for sharing and even product development. So thank you. I hope I have been within my allocated time.
You've done perfectly, and thank you very much for those insightful comments. I really appreciate that. I'll remind everyone that you can please ask questions, and we will come back to questions for all of the panelists at the end. So if you want to ask a question of a specific panelist, please do mention that in the chat as well. Thank you very much, Gergana. We'll now move on to my other colleague from Austria, Robert Bodenstein. Robert, I'll hand it over to you now.
Thank you. Can you switch to my slide?
I can.
Very good. Oh, that looks a bit different. The background got lost. Is it?
In the transfer, we did lose.
Okay. The content is still the same. It looks a little bit different.
Oh, sorry about that.
Well, so actually, I have been listening to you, Gergana, and you mentioned a lot of things I will be addressing, but from a different perspective. So I'm trying to put some flashlights out of my experience, many discussions I had with colleagues, many thoughts I have made with regards to the ICMCI organization. And these flashlights I'm doing from the perspective of the clients, and the other one is from the perspective of the consultants. These flashlights might change as the current situation is changing. The flashlight might be a little bit different from country to country, or might be different from industry to industry, because the economic situations, they are different. I think it would help that we find a common understanding of what do we know. We know that we do not know many things, but some things we know. And one thing is that things are changing. Uncertainty is becoming normal. And some of these changes might be sustainable, some of them not. We don't know which of them. Some people compare this situation with war. I think this is nonsense. War is in Syria, we are facing a crisis, but this crisis is not compared to a situation like war. Nevertheless, we have an economy that is extremely fragile. It is connected via the whole world, and globalization and digitalization are accelerating in a positive, but also in a negative way. And now I have to say it's the negative way. But in general, I think we should stay positive, and we will go through this crisis. And we as consultants, we are in the position to support our clients. But to do so, we need to approach the clients. The clients need to be willing to cooperate with us. And first and all, it's from my experience, we need to be very quick to understand the client. It is much, much easier to have existing clients to approach. It is extremely important to speak the language of the client with all regards, like, of course, the natural language, but we need to understand them with respect to the industry knowledge, to cash management, marketing strategy, what's the calculation scheme, but also on a personal level, on an emotional level. We need to understand them and have a very good conversation, like friend to friend, but still staying professional. Clients are not asking for further questions for the time being. They are asking for answers. So I had a discussion today in the morning with one client, and that's a hotel, and he was asking me, when should I open? And we worked out a strategy to find out how to open. We need to identify what are the drivers and what are the conditions to make these decisions. But nobody of us can predict the future, and nobody can tell the client in 3 weeks or in 3 months or maybe in 3 years, everything will be fine. We don't know yet. We need to think out of the box for this time. Some of the business might change very dramatical, some of them not. We need to identify the drivers that might affect the business of the future of our clients. Let me bring an example. If home working will grow as many people would think that it grows, people won't be on the way so much as they do now. Traffic goes down. The point of sales on high frequency areas like traffic exchanges might not be the same as they are now. For our clients that might need to change about their strategy to communicate to the people, to address the people, how to deliver, whatever, we need to identify that's the critical drivers for our clients' business and make them visible. What would it mean that one of these drivers changes? That's the time where we should think again, what are our core competences as consultants? I think one of the core competences of consultants is the competence to bring in a systematic approach to work on solutions. Everybody has different tools or different methodologies or different strategies, but actually that's one of the needs of clients. Still feet on the ground, very positive thinking and very strategic and structured thinking to find solutions. And in the same way, to be as agile as possible and show the clients not only they need to be agile, it's also us to be need to be agile. Respond very quick, respond in a very reliable mode, and be there when the client is asking for us. On the other side, I would like to show the view from the consultant's perspective. And I would say it's not the time for harvest. For the time being, it's sowing time. But others than farmers, we don't know really which of the seeds will be with which effect. Some of them might be very fruitful, some of them not. And we don't even know when time for harvest might come. But let me switch. I need to switch from the next slide here. Sorry. Yeah. First of all, I think new methodologies, very hands-on, very supportive, very efficient. That's something we could work on now. With some respect, we do have time. We do have the situation that we can try new methodologies, learn as we are used to learn. Consultants are always used to learn. We always have a lifelong learning approach. And now we need to find the proper services and methodologies to help our clients. For the time being, I think a 3-day outdoor team building activity to discuss strategy, that's not the client asking for. They need to find solutions, and they need to discuss the impact of the solutions, and they need somebody to be more or less a coach in finding the appropriate methodologies. And it's also a very good time to update skills. That starts with social skills. I have a lot of webinars, and I find that we need to learn a little bit how to work proper with Zoom. What does it mean for our presentation skills? What does it mean for the technical skills? Dwight is smiling, and I know that we all learn a lot from the Zoom webinar technologies, how to work with them. And I think that's something that could improve the client's business if you can help them to work with the right tool. That includes, of course, technical skills too, but also social skills. It could be a good time to rethink if we are working in the appropriate collaboration setting. The partners whom we are working together with, are they the right partners to work with? are we in the situation, in the team, in the collaboration, in the partnership to provide the right solution in a good time with the best effect for our clients, or do we need additional support? And it is, from my understanding, it might be the last call to change for us as consultants with regards to digitalization. We very often require from our clients and say them, you need to change. Digitalization is changing the way you do your business. Sometimes we forget that digitalization might change our business too. And for now, it's a good time to think, what does digitalization mean for consultants' business? Is it only to provide a file sharing platform or work with Zoom or Excel sheets? Or is it something that could change the way how we calculate our projects, that could change our way how we communicate with our partners? I think if we do not learn by now to adopt digitalization for our business, it will be very late if we start that after the crisis. But in general, I think consulting is a perfect business to help many people, to help many organizations around the globe. It is something that is really needed. And all we need to do is to stand up, to rethink if everything is okay, if we are in the right shape, if we need to improve, and then approach our existing client. Don't lose time with new clients, with new methodologies, with new systems. First, I would say for now, for today, that might change tomorrow, but for today, approach the existing client, help them, serve them. Do not think about how to charge as much money as possible. That's something that will be done. It needs to be done, but I would shift that a little bit to a little bit later. So it might be the race of the industry, the consulting industry. If we use these windows of opportunity, it might be perfect. If we don't use it, we will lose. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rob. Thank you for those points, and so concise from the client and from the consultant point of view. I really appreciate that. So again, any questions that you have for Robert, please put them in the text box. For Gergana and Rob, as I follow the chats, you should look in your chat box, because there's lots of really nice feedback coming to both of you in terms of thanks and commenting on your excellent presentations. What we'll do now is we'll turn to my colleague from the United States, Juan Negroni, Managing Director at Tally Consultancy and the Chair of ICMCI, of IMC USA. We have a lot of initials in this organization. Juan, I'll turn it over to you. No, we have you muted.
Okay, what I said.
There you go.
I haven't been promoted to your position yet, so, but if you vacated, I may show some interest in it. Well, thank you very much for inviting me. It was fascinating to hear you start off with your overview, then Gergana, and then Robert. You gave some phenomenal, all three of you, macro perspective. Mine tends to be more micro. I believe anyway. I thought some of the things that Robert said about skills, the development of skills, is one thing that I had high on my mind. So thank you. And you hit on a few other things that I might have mentioned it, but I knew that you would do that. So, but thank you anyway. So what's the future? I'm going to be talking about what's the future? What do we do? Do we help ourselves? Do we help clients? And getting back to what Robert says, what skills do we need? Do we have hidden skills, untapped skills? So in terms of the future, there are so many models out there as to what's going to happen. And the variables seem to change from day to day, depending on which model that you look at. So my perspective is this: you have to think in terms generally, because if you go with one specific model, it may not be the one that will give you the most return. What I've done is I've taken a video from the BBC of all places that gives a perspective as to what possibly might happen. So, Dwight, if you would roll them, I would appreciate that.
Thank you. We're experimenting today with new technology to actually show the YouTube video live, and I think it'll work. So here we go. Okay.
Lots of talk right now about how the pandemic will affect the global economy. But how long that downturn lasts and when the economy recovers is really anybody's call. Economists love charts. You may have heard them talk about recession trends as if they're reading the alphabet. Let's begin with the letter V. In a V-shaped recession, the economy suffers a steep fall, hits the bottom quickly, and then recovers at a galloping pace. There's no looking back. See ya. But more and more analysts are pouring cold water on the idea that the economy will recover like the letter V. They think it'll be more like the letter U. In this scenario, GDP shrinks, and then the economy just bumps along at the bottom for a while, typically several quarters. It takes longer to recover. Now, some experts say that measures to control the pandemic, lockdown, social distancing, will be in place for a while. And so it could take 2 years for the global economy to get back up to speed. Out of all the letters in the alphabet, the most feared is L. An L-shaped recession is long, one where economic growth is painfully slow. I mean, extremely slow. Come on. An L-shaped recovery sees a downturn, followed by years of, well, nothing. No economic growth. Think Japan in the 1990s, sometimes called its lost decade, or the Great Depression in the United States. Then there's double dipping. No, I'm not talking about the etiquette involving crackers and avocado dip. I'm talking about a W-shaped recovery. The downturn starts like a V, but that recovery then falters, and the economy slips into a recession a second time.
We want to get it open as soon as we can. We have to get our country open. Relaxing any of the measures currently in place would risk damage to both public health and our economy.
If countries go back to business as usual too soon, they may have to shut it down all over again. So that's our look at the alphabet recession curves. Which letter do you think is most likely to the world economy?
Okay, thank you.
Lots of talk right now about how.
Okay.
So why did I show this video? Will it determine how you as consultants or how we as consultants proceed if it's one versus the other? Obviously, nobody's looking for that L, I mean, where it can go on and on and on. I'm hopeful that it ends up being the U, where it goes down, and then it comes up slowly. And we may have a few quarters of economic slowdown, but eventually it'll turn around. So my question then is, will what you be doing depend on the future, or do you just go ahead and do whatever you think is appropriate to continue helping clients and developing yourself? My opinion, and that's the next one, please, next slide. What should we be doing now? And that's basically it. Do we develop ourselves, or do we put the emphasis on on clients? I've attended a number of webinars. We've had them at IMC. We've had town hall meetings. It's very interesting. Virtually everyone is saying, not as well as Robert and Gergana said it, but they're saying basically the same thing. Take care of the client. Let's put the emphasis on the client. Let's see what we can do for them. It's interesting. I thought that I might do that initially. Unfortunately, my business is a little bit different from most other businesses. I get my opportunities through consultants, I mean, through attorneys, because I do labor relations work. I do advisory, speaking, and writing. So while we work with the client and the attorneys work with the clients, they cannot present to the employees. They cannot interact with the employees. That's the law. So my thought was, let me see if I can start calling companies and that I've worked with. And I've worked with mom and pop outfits up to $15 billion company. And what do you think the attorneys were doing? They were doing the presentations. They were doing the webinars. And I said, oh my gosh, this isn't going to work. Maybe one or two clients will respond to me, but if the attorney is giving them free advice, that sort of puts me out. So I started thinking about it. What do I want to do? What should many of us be thinking about? And that's the third point. That's the third point. Should we be just focusing on on the clients, or should we be thinking about ourselves, developing our skills? And Robert really hit it on the head when he said up-to-date skills. We need to improve what we're doing. And I believe basically is that we need to look within ourselves at skills that we've not used, that they've been hidden. Think of what happens, certainly in the United States, or when an individual loses his job or her job. Companies will often provide them what is called outplacement services, okay? So the individual goes to these outplacement services, and I know because I was working for one of them when I first went into consulting. They sit down with that individual, they try to determine what his or her skills might be and how they might be transferable into a new situation. So that's been my approach to it. Obviously, you try to help clients as much as possible. You listen to what some of the other speakers here have said. But the question I think we have to ask ourselves is, what are we doing to improve ourselves? What has surprised me in looking at various webinars and listening to people is that individuals who were very successful in the arena in which they were practicing for years are now considering going in a new direction. Maybe not a completely new direction, but taking the skills that they had and applying them elsewhere. So that's been my focus. What can you do during these downturns? Some of you have written books. Some of you have put videos together. That's what I've been doing. I've been looking at the possibility of doing videos so that I've written more columns so that whatever happens, whether we get into an L-shaped future economy or whether it's a U, whatever you want to be, I'm hoping for the U. I'm not hoping for the L. I don't think that would work very well for any of us. To be able to step in when that opportunity comes about. Yes, we should continue helping clients, and it was stated much better than I could have stated it by the previous speakers. But I think in the end, that's where it lies. It's what we do for ourselves. Continue helping clients to the extent that you can, but don't forget about your skills and learn new ones, as Robert says. So that's basically my perspective on what's going on. It's sort of a micro approach as opposed to a macro approach. So thank you, and I'll look forward to questions.
Thank you very much, Juan. And I see also comments coming here in the chat box thanking you for the presentation. It's great. And I appreciate from all three of you a very different approach that I think has created a fulsome discussion platform for all of us moving forward now. So that moves us to the moderation phase. Just to make a couple of comments on what I've been reading in the chats as our three presenters have gone forward. The first one is I need to thank formally Rima and Husseima. Rima, our executive director, is managing this whole process and has done a great job of getting us off the ground. And Rima, at the end, may I ask you to do a quick promotion for next week's webinar, please? And Husseima does logistics, so she keeps make sure that we're all registered and then manages everything while we're going through these. So does a great job. And I should have had her loading the YouTube video. It would have gone more smoothly. So thank you all. That was really good. In terms of one of the texts, there was a question to Juan who replied about the new normal, saying that he's written recently an article for the Hearst group on that. So I will send that, and we'll send that around with the PDF. So everyone will receive a PDF of the slides and a link to the YouTube video, and we'll add your article to that one as well. So in terms of the first question, Rob, this one is for you. What do you think the main client's expectation are from us as consultants? And this is from Nader.
I think that's very different depending on the size and the industry the client is in. In general, we have two levels. The one level is hands-on for emergency help. That's something that is very, very short term, and that needs to be done within days or maybe weeks to help to support him in questions with human resources, or not to lose the clients or their existing customers, or cash management, cash flow, finance, whatever. That's one level. The other level is midterm or long term, and that's about strategy. That's about where does the business go to, and that's what I wanted to emphasize with the drivers that make the business happen or not happen, and we need to identify them. And I'm thinking about scenario techniques to make it visible for the client, to understand what will be the future of my business in 6 months. And we cannot predict it, but we can help him to understand better and to see the impact of changing environment on the existing business. And that is something we as consultants can provide 2, 3, 4, 5 different scenarios and make it visible for the client to understand what would it mean for my business. Should I downsize? Should I grow? Should I buy other companies? Whatever. That's something he needs to understand very quick and very hands-on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you. This one is more of a comment from Fernando. Thank you, Fernando. But Gergana, I'd ask, you may have a comment on it because I think it was related to your presentation. The impact of the crisis was sudden with many unknowns. I believe any solution that we come up with will be short-term in nature. As other issues arise, we should build those solutions around those issues. We can no longer look forward to years or even months ahead because we do not know what will happen. We should put measures in place, even if temporary, to create the survival of the client operations, cooperating with the team and sharing our knowledge and skill, and that will be extremely critical to move forward collectively. So Gergana, any comments on that one? Oh, we've got you muted. Okay.
I absolutely agree with this comment. This is why, and also about developing skills, this is why I think that it is important to have the right mindset. I think everything will change. I know some of the colleagues have mentioned that maybe some businesses will change, others will not change. I think everything will change because people have already different perception about what is right and what needs to be done, and it should be a way of living, a way of thinking, not simply a one-off project. We should be thinking about maybe purpose, values. I know that it sounds a bit maybe too general, but also we shouldn't forget that I think if you look at the generation of our clients, they more and more younger people would be having a decision-making power. I think they would also look at what we have done for the socially, as you know, as for other stakeholders, not simply for ourselves, because they would be more sensitive about this, more you know, presence in the market and what we are doing in general. So yes, it is a way of. I fully agree. We can't say this is short term, this is long term. They should go hand in hand, and one should be a prerequisite for the other. And they should reinforce each other. They should not be this or that. They should be somehow finding ways of really reinforcing each other. So I fully agree with that comment. It's a state of mind.
Thank you, Gergana.
To continue developing.
Thank you very much. I have a question for you, Juan, but this one relates very closely to that one for Rob, so I'll ask it first. Rob from Nader, as I understand, you emphasize on short-term support. Don't you think that long-term strategy is also very important in order not to lose the future?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That's what I wanted to say with my first statement. It's the second level. I got some questions in the chat box. What do I mean by driver? Maybe trigger point would be the better expression for it. Thank you, Oscar, for this comment. It's to understand what drives my business. What are the main factors that my revenues grow or go down, that my production is working or is not working. That is, we need, the client understands why and how the business works, but the client often does not understand how to visualize that and how to understand the impact of changing in the environment to the way you deliver your business right now. And that's, I think, a big challenge for consulting. That's on a midterm or long-term strategy, because that might change dramatically in future. If people work at home and don't go to the shops to buy, shops might have, let me say, 10 or 20% less revenue. I started to cut my hair myself. Maybe I stay with that. But that would mean barbers make 50% less revenue, because 50% of the clients are men, and they can do it. Well, not as perfect, but they might do it themselves. Ladies don't, but so for a barber, it's easy to explain. If all men start to do their hair themselves, you might lose 50% of their revenue. Mm-hmm. And that would be a main driver.
Exactly. Very good point, Rob. Juan, this one is for you, and it extends this discussion. So obviously the thinking between short-term reaction and long-term strategy are really important. And it's more of a comment, but I'd appreciate your commenting on the comment, Juan. It's from Lauren. I believe it is not a choice between short-term and long-term. We should think about both. For some clients, survival on the short term is most pressing, but it is also important to think through in which way our thinking and our acting will be affected by this crisis even after it has passed.
I could not have said it better. I'm not one to, of course, you need long in some situation, you have to look at it long strategy, but it seems to me that in today's world, the way things are changing rapidly, the long-term strategy, though fashionable in the past, may not be one that we should adhere to completely. I'd rather think more in short terms. Now, if you think shorter terms, it's easier to change the tactics, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. But as I read and look at what's going on, this is what I was trying to say. Maybe I didn't say it properly. If you decide on a long-term strategy based on the current situation, that may not be the best way to go, because things will change. They're changing every day. You get new information, new variables. I'm talking about the pandemic. You look at you get new variables, and that changes everything. There are people who are arguing as to what's going to happen. And it seems to me in the United States, your political leaning has a lot to do, unfortunately, with the way you're looking at the situation. If you happen to be from one arena, you want to open up the economy as quickly as possible. If you're from the other arena, you want to concentrate more on the health issues. So it becomes a political issue. How does that affect a consultant in terms of planning his or her strategy? I'm not sure. I'll let that for the people who are better at long planning or strategic planning than I am.
Thank you very much, Juan. Gergana, this one is for you. It's quite a practical question from Adelwin. Excellent presentations to everyone. In the market where I operate, there's a tendency by business leaders to only consider or hire consultants they know personally. How do I, as a consultant, establish, and build the relationships, trust, and credibility that's needed?
It's a very good question, and again, it is, and some of the speakers have already mentioned that personally they have approached clients who they know already, because you believe that the good reputation which you have developed in the past would help to continue building trust. But I think we should also be brave enough to approach new clients. It is very easy now with consulting to share with all the digital platforms and the way we communicate, to share ideas. I think it is very important to be to communicate, to be active in the market, and to demonstrate that that we can help even before the crisis. I know of many cases where we have invested a lot of efforts to think about the issues of the client and to propose to them what the solutions could be. And even we have discussed on many occasions that the reward which a consultant would have for their input would be on the output, not so much on the number of hours, etc. So there are many ways of, and we should be trying to approach clients in various ways. We could also do that through, of course, partnership with others. But definitely we should not stay with the existing client base. I believe we should be looking for new ways to demonstrate, especially if we have to offer. A nice approach could be to go by sector, because sector insights are very important, sector development, regulation in specific sectors. So this is another way of demonstrating our ability to help clients.
Thank you very much. I'd also like to thank everyone for the comments that they're putting in here to share information with their colleagues. So do check the chat box, because there's lots of really good information in there. There is a question here that I think I'll take a crack at, and then see if any of my panelist colleagues have any ideas. And the question was asking how we can use this crisis, the COVID-19 pandemic, as a I'm just trying to, oh, here it is. What role will this crisis play in reorganizing management consulting sector in different countries? And I think that's a really loaded question, because please keep muted. We're starting to get some feedback here. So if anyone is unmuted, if you could unmute, I would appreciate. Thank you very much. So we'll get back to that in a second. So that is a major question, because management consulting as an industry was facing disruption even before the crisis. The way in which new consultants coming into the market think about institutes and think about collaborating with colleagues is quite different than it was even a few years or a decade ago. So we, as management consulting professionals who are organized into institutes, need to think about how we affiliate with these new members coming in, and how we in our institutes provide added value, and how we at ICMCI support our institutes in doing that. So I will be sending an update as chair in the hopefully within the next week, talking about some of the things that we're doing, including the launching of a global task force to look into specifically this issue, because we've been talking about it for some time now. We've been distracted just dealing with the day-to-day in terms of the COVID crisis, but this fundamental question about our industry and what it looks like in the future is really important to all of us. So I'll open it to the panelists to also comment on that, please, and that will bring us to the hour. Okay, good. Sounds like we've answered that one. So thank you very much. And I did make a commitment at the beginning that if there were unanswered questions, I'll follow up with the panelists, and we will get back to you individually on these. We have your contact information, so we will do that. I thank you very much for all this excellent participation. Thanks again, Rima, Husseima. Thank you to each and every one of you for joining us. It's the sharing of information. And Rima, you get the closing words to tell us about next week's webinar, please.
Thank you, Dwight, and lovely to see so many faces, some familiar, some I would hope we'll meet face-to-face soon. The next seminar will be held on the 14th, next week. It's going to be about social media marketing, how you could be there, what you need to do in order to make sure that what you're posting gets to everyone, how to handle it, and how to manage your image and how you reflect your true self on the social media. The person who's going to be our main speaker on that event is with us actually. She's Yehona Luca. She's a board member of ICMCI and has been doing a great job at supporting us at ICMCI since the past 2 months. So let's hope you'll all be there. It's going to be at 7 a.m. UTC. I hope that would be a good time for most of you. Even if not, it's going to be recorded and it's going to be on our social media, okay? So you'll be able to see the links to it on Facebook, you'll be able to see the links to it on LinkedIn, but mainly you'll be able to see the video itself on YouTube. Thank you everyone again.
Thank you all. Have a very good rest of your day, whatever time zone you're in. Thank you very much. Bye all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for all, everyone.
Yes, thank you to our speakers especially. Thank you for preparing
Thank you.
such great work. Bye.